Welcome back everyone, this is Alex from Studio Trejo, and today we're going to review the Vivitar Series 1 135mm f2.3 prime lens. This vintage superfast aperture prime was part of Vivitar's professional line, the Series 1. The key to making these lenses stand out from the competition was to design them with extreme close focusing distances in mind, while maintaining fast apertures, sharp optics, and looking good while doing it. This uniquely built telephoto was part of a set of prime lenses made for the Series 1 flagship. But right now, let's jump into the key features of this lens. The Vivitar Series 1 135mm has a maximum aperture of f2.3 and stops down to f22 with click stops in between. It has 8 aperture blades, creating octagonal bokeh when stopped down and 8-pointed sun stars on bright points of light. This lens has 6 elements and 6 groups. It has a huge 72 diameter filter thread size for that enormous front element. This copy that I'm reviewing is a Nikon non-AI f-mount. The serial number indicates that it was built by Komine, lens manufacturer in Japan, and it weighs 675 grams or 1.5 pounds. The minimum focusing distance is 0.9 meters or just under 3 feet from the focus plane, which gives it a 1 to 4.5 maximum reproduction ratio. Now let's talk about build quality and handling. I love the build quality of this lens. All metal construction with a cone-shaped design as opposed to your typical cylindrical barrel, which makes this lens stand out. It has a generous sized focus ring for ultra smooth focus. It's almost a full rotation to go through the entire focus of this lens as the barrel continues to expand, reaching its minimum focus. The aperture has smooth click stops that you can see through a small oval window cut out of the barrel to view the markings engraved into the inner barrel, denoting aperture. The focus scale can also be seen through its own rectangular window cutout, and it also has a small built-in hood. It's small details like this that makes this lens a little extra special. Okay, I think we can all admit, this lens is going to look good on your camera. But now let's talk about image quality. Like most vintage lenses, this prime is a little soft wide open and it sharpens up as you stop down. But to be honest, you're really going to have to pixel peep to see the softness. If there is one drawback that I see in this lens, it's going to have to be the chromatic aberrations. Anywhere where there are bright backgrounds, it'll show up when it's wide open. Once it's stopped down, it disappears, or you can remove it in post. Vignetting is really not a problem, or noticeable on this lens unless you really look. This lens does flare and lose contrast in bright light. Both can be used creatively, but if you're really not into that, you may want to look at a lens with more modern coatings. This particular copy is an earlier version of this lens that doesn't have the VMC or Vivitar multi-coating engraved on the filter ring. A newer version of this lens with the VMC may improve the results. Bokeh is creamy and dreamy. At 135mm, most lenses will give you a background blur the photographers love. But since this lens allows you to get even closer to your subject, it will blur out the background even more, creating impressionistic, dreamlike backgrounds for your subject. This lens gives that 3D pop to your images with colors on the neutral side of the spectrum. The black and whites are beautiful, as it renders deep blacks and gradients of gray. Not everything is perfect with this lens. I wish the focus throw was a little smoother, especially with its very long focus throw. It does suffer from chromatic aberration and it does lose contrast near light sources, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. These characteristics are the signature of most vintage lenses. Some can be removed in post and some not so much. So it's a good idea to keep in mind the limitations of this almost 50-year-old lens when you're using it in the field. So what's my take on this lens? If you like shooting portraits with creamy bokeh, large bokeh balls, and vintage color science, this prime is a no-brainer. There are faster and lighter primes out there with autofocus and modern coatings, but that's not why we buy vintage lenses. We like the character and we want the quirks. This lens has all of that and also creates beautiful imagery. And did I mention it looks good doing it? The Series 1 lenses still live, and this 135mm f2.3 is a keeper for me. If you liked this video, hit the like and subscribe button below, and we will see you on the next vintage lens review.